You know, I have vivid memories of watching E3 2014 at one of my friends' house, and of both of us losing our shit when they started talking about the next Mass Effect game. Of course, this was still back in my innocent days before I joined the Borg-like collective that is the YouTube reviewer scene, and had all emotions besides cynicism sandblasted out of me, but I can still hear that poor kid trapped in the dark recesses of my mind who used to look forward to the future with hope and optimism, but who has now been reduced to tears ever since he started playing Mass Effect Andromeda. I tried to warn him. Poor bastard. So tell me, dear viewer, what's the one thing that everyone hates about Andromeda? The answer is, of course, the animations, which are very much at the heart of the current Andromeda criticism scene, but I think that's a retarded complaint. Now, that's not me saying that they're good, because they're not. They're fucking awful. To the point, actually, that if the mid-act story twist was that the Geth had secretly broken into the Hyperion and replaced all the humans in cryosleep with synths, Fallout 4 style, it would have made entirely too much sense. But if that's the biggest complaint you can find about the game, then you're not looking hard enough. It's like if you had a bike frame without any wheels, and spent all your time complaining about how flimsy the handlebars are. I mean, yeah, technically an issue, but you're sort of missing the forest for the trees here. Now, the much bigger problem with Andromeda is that the story and writing are atrocious, and no amount of highly polished animations could ever save it from that. From the very outset, I was already kind of uneasy about the general premise. So, wait a minute, I said. You're telling me that tens of thousands of humans, Salarians, Asari, etc. are leaving behind lives, families, loved ones, stable jobs, and most importantly of all, the internet, and are going to go be secluded for the rest of their lives in a different galaxy, and they're not all either clinically insane or outlaws with nothing to lose? I mean, they make a big point about Andromeda having all these amazing golden worlds, and how all these people are just seeking nice homes, but whatever it would cost to pack up your entire life and build a house in a different galaxy, surely there must be somewhere in the Milky Way with cheap beachfront property. I mean, sure, it's probably secretly a last-ditch effort attempt to preserve life in case the Reapers had killed everything, hence why they're called Ark ships, and yeah, that's some real fucking subtle storytelling there, guys. But I don't see how they'd sell throwing your life away to a general populace whose only concern is about whether or not they'll get the new iPhone 6000. So that didn't make any sense to me, but whatever, I could potentially move past that. Then we actually get to Andromeda and discover that an evil alien species has fucked the whole place up, for no better reason than because they're bastards. But don't worry, it just so happens that there used to be an ancient race of aliens who have left technology around the place. And no, it's not the Protheans, this is completely different and totally original. And that technology just so happens to be a bunch of giant terraformers, which is insanely lucky when you consider that if they were literally anything else, we'd have been screwed. I mean, imagine Ryder activating the giant pillars for the first time and discovering they were something lame like a library or a weapon or literally anything else that makes way more sense than giant bottles of Febreze. And because you have the ability to control the giant air fresheners, whereas the evil aliens don't for reasons that I don't feel were ever adequately explained, you're the only one who can stop them and save the galaxy. Now, I must stress that none of this was a deal breaker. I mean, it should have been because the cracks were already showing, but as a huge Mass Effect fanboy, I found myself giving the game a lot more chances than it really deserved. So let's look at the moment when Andromeda finally lost me. The scene that made me realize that I was playing an absolute unsavable dumpster fire of a game. It comes about 3 hours into the story when you first travel to Aya in search of the remnant vault present on that world, and on the way you get contacted and intercepted by aliens. Now, these are the first sentient things in this galaxy that haven't tried to gun you down on sight, and the game has spent a lot of time stressing how big a deal first contact with a new species would be. So they come in over the radio and say something in a language we don't understand, and I'm given two options. Either let's stay calm or we come in peace. Now, obviously, we come in peace isn't going to do shit because they don't understand English as was just demonstrated. So I pick let's all stay calm, thinking that Ryder will turn and say that to his crew. Instead, he says this.
Listen, sorry to just show up like this, but I swear, we're the galactic good guys.
Jesus fucking Christ. Firstly, how the fuck did let's stay calm translate to that? Second, who the fuck wrote that line? Because if you tell me that anyone past the age of 14 wrote something that inane, I would want them sectioned. Third, is that seriously what the first words said to this new species are? Are teachers really going to have to teach that historic line to children years from now, alongside shit like the first words on the moon?
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Listen, sorry to just show up like this, but I swear, we're the galactic good guys.
So, in response to Ryder's pathetic attempt at first contact, we get some more alien gibberish that our pilot somehow interprets as them forcing us to land. So their ships guide us to land inside the middle of a city. What the fuck? Yeah, aliens, just park your flying saucer in Times Square and the president will meet you there. It'll be fine. So then Ryder leaves the ship and gets an armed escort to an official, and then this happens.
I'm Paran Shai, governor of Aya. We are the Angara.
Wait, no. How the fuck can they speak English, game? We were just getting barked at in gibberish a few seconds ago. I mean, Mass Effect lore has made it very clear that everyone's Omni tool has an on-the-fly translation system built into it, and that's why all the aliens speak English. But hand-wavy enough as that explanation already is, you can't just explain this one away by saying the translator's magic or some shit. I mean, in Bring Down the Sky, there's a codex entry that makes it very clear that, quote, governments provide subsidized software updated through the public extranet on the fly. Newly discovered or obscure alien races don't have machine translation available until the linguists have had time to study them. So what the fuck? Why does every member of this alien species in the fucking Andromeda galaxy know fluent English? Oh, it's for the sake of gameplay, I'm sure you're saying. Yeah? Well, if it was, why did they even bother drawing attention to it in the first fucking place? Why did they start off speaking gibberish and then just magically know English a few seconds later? I've got no fucking idea. So I can only assume then that BioWare Montreal thinks that Mass Effect translators run on a combination of pixie dust and the hopes and dreams of fairies. Oh, and later we get this scene.
Trade? Trade. Trade.
Fucking decide, BioWare. Are we going to keep hand-waving the language barrier thing away, or are you going to keep bringing up its supposed existence? I mean, you could fly the fucking Normandy through this plot hole. Oh, and speaking of things being way too convenient, why doesn't Ryder have a helmet on right now? I mean, setting aside how extraordinarily unlikely it would be that this planet's atmosphere would consist of the exact same gas composition as air, what about diseases? I mean, this could be like a smallpox and the Native Americans thing all over again. That's a great way to make a first fucking impression. So, after 5 seconds of conversation, Ryder then gets walked through a busy civilian area, where none of the civilians seem to give a shit that an alien's being escorted through the center of town, and then taken to the species president, with no security precautions whatsoever. I mean, yeah, they technically scanned me for weapons earlier, but they don't know if I have any other abilities. Like, oh, for sake of example, fucking biotic powers, with which I could easily kill everyone present. I mean, the least they could do is fucking handcuff him. So the president gives us the classic, you help us, we help you line. And one of the aliens, Jal, gets assigned to our crew to keep an eye on us. Of course, no one mentions if we need to pack him special food, or if any vital accommodations need to be made to our ship in order for him to live on it. No, it'll be fine. He'll just eat hamburgers and grab a bed in the crew quarter like everyone else. He calls the top bunk. What the fuck, BioWare? Did a professional writer get paid real money to write this scene? I mean, what should be a monumental moment for both species, both the first friendly aliens from Andromeda to join the Alliance military for us, and the gaining of a major ally capable of turning the tide of their losing war for them, is treated more like us showing up late for our first day of work. I mean, think what a good writer could do with aliens from a different galaxy. Like, maybe they see our very presence here as a threat. These guys had an entire galaxy all to themselves, and that still wasn't enough for them? And now they want to take our worlds too? Maybe we should be suspicious of this. Or, what if their biology and culture is completely unthinkable to us? Like, what if they weren't even cell or DNA based? Some completely new life form where the concept of gender doesn't exist, or that communicates with bioluminescence. Oh wait, those were two aliens from our fucking galaxy. And yet, the aliens who live 2 million light years away can speak fluent English, breathe air, eat all the same food, and have pretty much the same culture. I mean, they might as well just be guys in costumes at this point. So, congratulations, writer. You've traveled 2 million light years to find out that everything here is exactly the fucking same. And that was the moment I completely lost all interest in the game. To take something as interesting as meeting new life in a different galaxy and turn it into something so mundane, so boring, astounds me. I mean, I could probably write a more interesting alien race in my sleep. And it's not like I'm saying the whole game is bad because of this one scene, but you have to realize that the idiots who wrote this scene looked at it and thought it was okay, also wrote the entire rest of the game. And God, you can tell. The shitty writing is everywhere. For example, all the squad mates are pretty much just reskins of old ones. You have the two boring humans that no one cares about, and a sorry researcher obsessed with ancient alien technology, a hard-ass Turian with a scanner, an out-of-place unknown alien with an African accent, and a battle-hardened Krogan. The originality on display astounds me. Oh, and speaking of that Krogan, you meet him in the first hour or two of the game, and he joins your team very shortly after that. Now, I propose to you a question. What's his name? Don't worry, I'll give you a sec here. Is it Rex? No, that's the name of the infinitely better Krogan from the original Mass Effect series. And I'm sure you're running through other Krogan-y names in your head, stuff like Carlox and Brax, and other names that sound like a brand of ointment cream, but no. His name is Drac. And I had to look that up just now to tell you that, because he was that forgettable. And that's despite the fact that I had him in my squad almost the entire game. And it's not even like he's one of the boring human squad mates whose names you're perfectly justified in forgetting. He's one of the cool aliens. But he has no character. There's nothing interesting about him, nothing that in any way separates him from any other member of his species. I mean, compare that to the original trilogy. We had Liara, Tali, Rex. These were characters whose names and stories I will never forget. Jack, Garrus, Legion. Fucking Legion's my favorite character. I still fanboy when I think about him calling me Shepard Commander.
Shepard Commander, Shepard Commander, Shepard Commander.
Now, granted, that might not be the fairest comparison. I mean, do you remember his name? I don't. But the point is, most of the characters in the original Mass Effect series were interesting and memorable, but I can count on the fingers of no hands how many characters from Andromeda that I'll still remember a year from now. Well, that I'll remember for non-ironic reasons anyway. And speaking of unmemorable characters, I want to briefly touch on the Archon, whose name in itself is so boring that I feel the need to change it before I accidentally fall asleep. So the funny thing about Mr. Fluffy Bunny Kittens is that it's almost like the game makes a point of demasculating him at every given opportunity. Haha, I have command of your ship now, Ryder. You're mine. Lol, later. I'm leaving you to die, Ryder. You're mine. Okay, out of that trap, now on to Foyle's big master plan. I mean, dude's been trying for hundreds of years to control the Remnant technology, which is something you're able to do within seconds of finding it for the first time. He tries to get information about it out of the Moshai, and when she spits in his face, he goes, "Well, fine then," and then locks her up, and you don't even fight him directly in the end. You just kill his giant robot arm, and then that kills him. Is it possible to make a less threatening villain than this guy? I mean, the Shadow Broker, a mini-boss in a DLC mission, is far more intimidating than Mr. Fluffy Bunny Kittens, because not only does he know your every weakness, but he can also throw a decent fucking punch if he needs to. Whereas, Mr. Fluffy Bunny Kittens is just a guy. He's a dude who constantly fucks up, virtually indistinguishable from the thousands of his species that you kill throughout the game. Which reminds me, I had a little laugh in the after credits scene where it does one of those Thanos moments that's supposed to set up the big villain of the next game, except this one totally falls flat because we have no idea who this guy is, and without any more context, he is also just a dude. So at the end of the day, what do we have here? Well, the old aliens the game introduces are boring, the new aliens the game introduces are boring, and the big villains the game introduces are boring. The Angara might as well be humans in costumes, the Remnants are just the Protheans again, but green this time, your squad mates are literal reskins of far more interesting characters from the original games, and the villain is... Wait, was there even a villain in this game? I forgot. That, to me, is far more damning an accusation than bad animations. The criminal sin of being boring as fuck. Listen, I know that Mass Effect Andromeda was made by a different studio and different writers, but it's insane to me how a game franchise that prided itself on weaving amazing stories and having unique and memorable characters could sink this low, release something this hackneyed, this unfinished, this fucking boring. And that's just the story. I haven't even begun to touch on any of the shitty gameplay, but unfortunately, folks, I am out of time. So join me next time for Mass Defect, Why Everything Else Sucks Too. If you like this video and want to see more like it, then head over to my Patreon page at patreon.com/Psy and maybe throw a few bucks my way if you can. You can also check out my second channel where I upload vlogs, let's plays, and shitposts, and follow me on Twitter at ThatPsyGuy. And finally, I want to give a special shout out to some of my Patreon patrons, including Isaiah Christo, Sawsbucky, Forgotten Paladin, Killy, Ludwig, Mageline, Mythnut, and an account that I made to donate to myself to pretend that I have more fans for all of their wonderful support. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.